Frank, outside of PJ, is there anybody else that you know won't be back with the team next year?
No, it's I'm not real happy with a couple guys, but I'm not prepared to. It has nothing to do with talent or playing or anything like that. But I'll let you speculate on who those guys are. I'm not prepared to speak on those things right now.
Can you take us through the timeline of PJ's departure and sort of when he announced that he was going to declare but not sign with an agent, did you have a feeling then, or did you know then that he had kind of made up his mind?
You know, these aren't things that you lose on Saturday and all of a sudden it's just a you know, lightning hits a kite and you figure out you discovered electricity. You know, these are conversations that have been had for a long time. And yeah, I told PJ back in early January, I said if he was my son, I'd advise him when the time came to worry about. I'm a big believer is you worry about things when you're supposed to worry about them. Don't worry about Kentucky if you got 3 games before the Kentucky game. Don't worry about the NBA draft in January. That's just how I'm cut, the way I'm wired, and the way I try to help share thoughts with our players so they can figure out their journey. So in all our conversations, I had kind of prepared myself and him that if he has that kind of year that I think he was capable of having, I'm not Nostradamus, but I think I told you guys last October that I expected him to be pretty darn good this year. And when the time comes, I think it's the right thing to do. So in my conversations during the course of the year, since the day I started recruiting him, I knew that this is a dream of his. Am I surprised that he did what he did? No. Would I rather him waited longer for the agent component to it? Me selfishly, yes, but it's not about me. It's about P.J. Dozier. And so I was in total clarity. That's the word I was looking for, complete clarity of the situation, the way it was unfolding, what he wanted, and I was not surprised. And I'm extremely excited for him. I'm excited for his family, the sacrifices that he made. You know, at the end of his freshman year, I felt like I spent all year answering as to how we won 25 games like he had nothing to do with it, because everyone is so cognizant and so there's so much emphasis put on statistics, okay? Go look at bad teams. I promise you they've got a player that's got beautiful statistics. Why are they a bad team? And PJ didn't have pretty stats as a freshman, but we did set a school record because he was a big part of setting the record, not an impediment to setting a record. I was real happy that he never paid attention to that nonsense and continued to grow to help us have a special moment in program history, and he had a lot to do with that. So I'm very, very happy for him. It's, you know, his road is not even close to being paved. He's still in the development stage of that road, but he's got me right next to him for anything he ever needs.
Frank, you talked a bunch during the year about how Hassani and Ra were fearless and unafraid of the moment and things like that. How comfortable are you, given the losses in the backcourt, with them kind of stepping up next year and being the guys to take over there?
I mean, heck, I don't. I felt pretty comfortable when we're playing Duke. You know, so I don't see why I would be uncomfortable. You know, the season was on the line, and I felt pretty comfortable with those guys against Duke. You know, someone came up to me and says, "Wow, total rebuild." I started laughing. He said, "Oh, you don't think it's a rebuild?" I said, "No." I said, character, courage, confidence, work ethic, camaraderie, teammates, that's what you fight to build. Once you've got that in place, then it's never ever about rebuilding. You don't rebuild when you lose statistics. I just said it. Finding guys to score points and grab rebounds, that's easy. That's the easiest thing to ever do. On every single bad team, there's a guy that's got unbelievable statistics that if you pay attention to that player's statistics, you'd be convinced he's a real good player. Well, he's part of the reason the team loses. On a team that wins, you got guys that maybe don't have very sexy statistics. However, they're a big reason why the team wins. We're about winning. That doesn't guarantee you win the next game, but the culture, the everything that takes place in building a winner is in place in the locker room, and Ra and Sonny are a big, big part of that. I have all the confidence in the world that those guys will grow as players, and when the challenges get in front of them next year, they'll be ready to go to take whatever role it is that they need to become to help our team be the best it can be next year.
Hey, Coach, just building off of that right there in terms of this offseason, is that something you challenge some of the guys? Because you lost some valuable senior leaders in Sindarius, Dwayne, and Justin. Is that something you kind of stressed in the player meetings, like, hey, this offseason, it's now your turn to take over as the voice on the court? And how do you think they learn from those senior guys to how to carry that torch?
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing of when you build, is that those young guys in that locker room, whether it was Chris Silva or Kotsar or Sonny or Ra, any of those guys, they kind of sat there and they just watched Sindarius and Dwayne and Justin and PJ, how they did things in their way to help our team win, statistics aside. And now it's up to one. Here's the biggest mistake we all make. We think that that's a role that the guy that played the most minutes coming back wants. That doesn't work that way. That's on them. They got to figure that one out. And if they're not willing to sign up for the job, it might be a first-year guy that comes in during the summer and says, hey, the reason I picked South Carolina is because you guys play this way, and I'm going to learn and make mistakes, but I'm not letting you not do it. And that leadership job, like Michael and Sindarius Carrera, two completely different animals, both led through different ways. There are certain ways Sin did things to lead that was more productive than Mike. And Mike handled certain things where he was more productive than Sindarius. Yet, there were some things Michael couldn't do that Sindarius did. And I'm not talking about basketball talent or scoring abilities. I'm talking about leadership qualities. Everyone has to sign up for the job they're comfortable in taking. If you're ever forced to a job, if you are ever forced into a job that you're not comfortable with, you're going to fail because you don't want it, and that's just the way the world works, and it's going to be no different on our team. We got numerous candidates in there that I think they can do it, but it's got to come from them. It's got to come from them. And the sooner guys take ownership of those new roles and responsibilities, the sooner our team will start to become the best that it can become next year. Hey, Joe. Do I get 3 more years before I have to answer a question? You see, I don't even go there anymore. I just say. No, I didn't say for what. I didn't say for what. I used to go there all the time.
Isn't it 5 now? I forget what the extension
Get 3 more. 3.
It's a perfect setup for my question. So news breaking last week, obviously, about your contract extension. Did you ever think for a moment about not re-signing with the Gamecocks, and why did you ultimately make the decision to sign a contract extension?
Yeah, I don't like moving. I like to dig my feet in the ground and build strong relationships and call somewhere home. I want to. My mother will probably whack me upside my head. I used to remember when I was a teenager, I never understood why 50-year-old people forgot so much. Well, now that I'm the 50-year-old, I understand why 50-year-old people forget so much. I want to say I moved 15 times between kindergarten and high school. We moved 15 different times. I could be wrong, but I think that was the number. So new house, new school, new block. It's frustrating, you know, just not fun. So I don't like moving. I really don't. And I'm at peace here. I work for incredible people. I work with incredible people. It's a great community. My wife's happy. My children are ecstatic. We've built this baby to this is our program, not mine, our fans, community, players, all of us, you know, you guys that cover our team day to day. It's Ray Tanner's phenomenal. When I mean phenomenal, I mean phenomenal. You know, his staff is tremendous. Dr. Pastides is you know, he's a president that understands the role of athletics in the world of universities. He's a tremendous fan, yet he's a person that trusts in the people he hires. I've gotten to know our board members. I'm just, why leave happiness? Why entertain? You know, right now there's nothing in my personal life that's drawing me to want to listen to something else. I'm at peace with where I'm at, and we've got a lot of work to do. You know, this past year was fun, unbelievable, but we got a lot of work to do. You know, and so I'm excited. You know, and there's not a dollar figure in the world that can bring happiness to a man, and you know, I get out of bed every day, and if I made 20 grand, what I used to make, I couldn't, you know, I wouldn't be sadder or happier. I'm in a real good place right now.
He obviously wasn't able to make an impact in games, but what kind of impact do you think Corey Holden made this year in practice and his development in this program? And what do you see as his future? Obviously, next year being a
Corey. And you guys will be privy to spending more time with him here moving forward. Not that we kept you away, just I comprehend. He's just not playing in games and not answering as many questions. Corey's a special young man, unbelievably talented mentally and physically. He's a lot of fun to be around. Very prideful young man. We get back to the statistics things that I was just speaking of. He had great stats. Unfortunately, his team didn't win. And redshirting is hard. That's the hardest thing for any of these kids to ever go through because they've never been told you can't play. And going through that year, I haven't been around not one that just kind of goes through it and is smooth sailing. Every one of them is miserable at some point or time. And he learning what it takes to have a winning team, be in a locker room where guys really, really care about the whole rather than just the parts, I think was real good for him. I think it allowed him to embrace team and winning. Help him grow, but I'm ecstatic. He just called me. Heck, wherever I was recruiting last week. I don't know where I was at. I was in between home visits, and he called me and he said, "I don't know why, but I don't have the incoming freshman phone numbers. Can you send them to me?" Just wants to start communicating. He had David Beatty's number. He didn't have the other three guys. He said, "Can you send them to me? I want to start talking to them, so when they get on campus, we're ready to go." You know, and that's, you know, sounds good, but I'd rather have that than a guy that kind of so consumed with himself that doesn't care about the incoming players. Now, once they get here, he'll embrace leadership in whatever way he wants to embrace it, and it's my job to help him. But he's a real talented, real talented young man. And even though we don't play games till next November, it's kind of like I don't know if it's a burden or, I don't like saying jail because that's not the right word, but, he's been confined to certain things. Well, he's not confined anymore. Now his voice, his energy, who he is can start becoming more relevant in the locker room because now he can start playing. So even though the first game's a long ways away, his voice and his personality can become stronger, especially after learning how a winning locker room operates.
Kyle and then Pete. You're good? Pete?
Frank, what's it been like for you the last 3 weeks? Was it just were you able to kind of soak in what happened this year, or was it a couple days later, all right, now we've got recruiting, we've got player meetings, we've got things to do to get ready for next year? What kind of a balance has it been these past 3 weeks?
Yeah, Pete, me and a bunch of us were sick as dogs in Phoenix. And the older you get, the more you understand how to, fight through the days you don't feel well. And when that game ended against Gonzaga, there's a lot of thoughts going through your head. And then on Monday, I got on the plane to head home, and I didn't feel well at all. And I basically was in bed from Sunday till Tuesday. And I guess my body just finally said, okay, you don't have an immediate responsibility, so you're done. And but it's been, I haven't had a day or two. Excuse me, rephrase that. I didn't have a day or two until the week after to really, really sit back and say, wow. Why? Well, I've got to deal with helping Matt Figger get himself situated. That's, you don't just, your assistant gets a job, you don't say, hey, thanks, see ya. You got to help him. Now it's his career that's on the line, that he's worked so hard in helping me with mine. It's my turn to help him get his started the right way. So you got to help him with, whether it's staff hiring, recruiting, trying to shield him from everyone in the world that's trying to get to him, that they're the right person for him to hire. You got to keep those people away from him because he's trying to go through something that he's never been through before. You got PJ's situation, which was something I knew was coming. If the season would have ended March 12th, I don't remember, whatever day we played the first game against Marquette, we would have had 2-3 weeks before it becomes something that's of relevance. So you got time. But we played on April Fool's Day, and that's a decision that now we had to attack a lot aggressively a lot sooner. So we had all that kind of going on, recruiting, which now you're in a live recruiting period. Like I told a young man, I'm in a conversation, he goes, Coach, other schools started recruiting me, earlier. And I said, I all due respect, and I don't speak about any school. Unfortunately for us, I didn't know PJ was going to hire an agent as soon as he did. And number two, while all those schools were recruiting you, we were actually practicing, trying to win a national championship. So it's a combination of all those things. Then on the following Saturday night, I had hung up with a couple guys that I'm in deep conversations about the assistant job here. And at the time, they were all preliminary conversations. And it was about 10:30 at night, and my wife said to me, the kids are on spring break. And I said, oh, yeah, of course I know that, yeah. She said, do you ever plan on doing anything with us that does not involve basketball? And I felt like that big. So she went to bed, and I kind of stayed on the couch and got on my iPad and started looking for flights for every beach destination from our coast all the way into the Caribbean. And I found great deals on flights to Grand Cayman. So, by the time I got in the room, she was asleep. So when she woke up on Sunday, went to church. When we got out of church, I said, hey, guess what? On Tuesday, we're going to Grand Cayman with the kids. And so when I got there, I was still connected to this gadget, which is the unfortunate part of our life, the way we live in today's day and age. However, I felt like a better husband. I felt like a better father. and I was able to sit and stare at the ocean and think about all the things that the last 5 years have done. And by the way, because of the question that was asked earlier about me wanting to be here and not giving Joe a platform to ask me about when I'm out of here, my boss had no idea I had left. So he's trying to find me so we can talk about the contract, and I'm like, I don't want to talk about anything. I'm staring at that ocean. But that's when it hit me. You know, when I was down in Grand Cayman, just you know, what a special month you know, March was. If we could have maybe played April 2nd instead of April Fools, maybe it would have been different. But
Franco, with the 4 freshmen, when do you anticipate them arriving? And as part of that, what can David Beatty bring to this program immediately, and how can he impact next year?
yeah, David brings that mentality that that Sindarius has, that Rotfelder has. You know, it's an aggressive toughness, and I don't like using the word because everyone thinks of tough as a guy that's willing to fight. It's not about fighting. But, you know, it's about standing up to adversity and not backing up a step. And that's kind of the way David's cut. So he brings a lot of that. He, like all of them, going to realize that there's a lot of things that persona allowed them to have success in high school basketball. It's not going to allow them to have success in college basketball, and they got to figure it out. I think there's a reason you saw Raw struggle early, have moments in the middle of the season, and then play more consistently at the end of the season because they figure it out. I think if you look at Sindarius's career, and if you eliminate his sophomore year, he was hurt. He wasn't injured. He was hurt, and he played hurt all year. If he was injured, obviously he wouldn't have played. It's hard to be productive when you're hurt. You can't do it. You try as hard as you can't do it. But if you look at his career, you see a lot of that same stuff that I'm telling you about Raw as a freshman, just in Darius freshman to senior, and you see the improvements at a much greater level, which is more tangible. I think David is cut that way. I think David is going to have moments early his freshman year where he's going to maybe not play as well as he wants or I want him to. He's going to have moments where we all see that talent and bravado. And then as he and I both understand each other and manage college basketball for him, I think by the end of the year you're going to see a closer product to who he's going to be moving forward. And then everyone else, they all graduate at different times. You know, the school's up in the Northeast. They don't let out till mid to late June. Jason Cudd gets out of school right at the end of May, I want to say, May 30th. I could be wrong by a day or two. And the guys from South Florida, one gets out first week of June, the other one gets out at the end of May also. So it's, you know, and then it's a matter of when can they start here? Well, whenever there's what's the word I'm looking for? A semester, whether it's a mini-mester or 2-week semester, or 4-week semester, whatever, where any student can be admitted to, then that's the one that they can be admitted to.
Frank, a little bit more about leadership. How unusually good was the leadership of the 3 seniors you had last year? And in your experience with the teams that you've had, is the leadership better when you have guys like that and Carrera the year before that have really been through the wars with you? Like you said, you could have a freshman or a new guy be a leader, but is it better when you have guys that have really been through it with you?
Absolutely. Everyone wants to lead when things are good, but you don't really lead until you understand how to manage adversity. And that's what every one of those kids learned in their time here. They learned, you know, in adverse situations. You find out who your friends are when you're in a difficult moment. You don't find out what your friends are when you go to the Final Four. All of a sudden, you got a lot of friends. Find out who your friends are when you're 1-8 in conference play, and everyone has the opinion that your team stinks and your statistics aren't very good, and the only people that actually speak to you are your coaches and teammates that go on the court and continue to try and help you. You find out in a hurry what reality is all about. So when you deal with adversity, that's what creates the people that want to lead and the ones that don't want to lead. It's okay to not be a leader, just don't be a distraction. You know, some guys don't want that responsibility. It's okay. It doesn't mean everyone has to be the guy that stands up in the face of adversity and says, we're going. You know, not everyone wants that, and that's all right. Nothing wrong with that. There's some guys that get quiet when adversity hits. There's nothing wrong with that either. If you don't have the ones that stand up to adversity, then you're probably not going to succeed. But as you're trying to figure out who your leaders are, it's the ones that are willing to take on that responsibility, not the ones I assign it to. It's the ones that are willing to take it on. And doesn't mean they're going to handle it the right way. It just means that they're willing to stand up when things are difficult. Those are the ones I got to help, because those are the ones that obviously want to lead. That was clear to me Sindarius' sophomore year. That was clear to me Michael Carrera at halftime of the game against Wisconsin-Milwaukee his freshman year. Those were moments that were, you know, clear to me. That was clear to me Bruce Ellington. You know, you guys loved it because I sat up here and I made a complete fool of myself with the whole, we had just lost to LSU and I was talking about the return of the living dead and all that stuff. That was clear to me who Bruce Ellington was in the locker room that day, what kind of courage and leadership he had, that he was willing to stand up and keep fighting to challenge his teammates to get better. You know, it's my job to pay attention to that. And then the ones that are willing to do that, those are the ones I got to help. Those guys were great last year, and they all did it in different ways. You know, you can use Justin Mackey, who Justin was trying to figure out who Justin was for a couple of years. And he eventually embraced it. And when he embraced it, all of a sudden he started becoming a consistent contributor. But because he embraced who he was, then it allowed him to take ownership in his way of our team and our program. Made him part of the solution his senior year. Dwayne was, you know, I use it all the time. You know, when I got suspended, Dwayne's a freshman. He could have sat up here and said to you, well, you know, we all know Frank's just loud and it is what it is. Instead, he sat here and all you got to do is go back and look at his answers, and he said, that's why I'm in school here. That's my guy. I came here because he's going to help me become a man. That showed me who Dwayne is in the face of adversity. And then Sindarius, who, you know, he handled it not in a statistics way, but in the decision-making process of coming to school here where he could have gone somewhere else where he could have won from day one. Instead, he took on the responsibility of coming here and not winning and never running away from it, never coming out of a drill. He was, you know, when he was hurt and he refused to miss practice time, let alone games, that kind of earned the trust and respect of a lot of people. So those three guys are great, and what they left behind for everyone else that's been their teammate is powerful. Now it's up to those guys to lead in their own way with the lessons that those guys help teach them. And that's what the coming months will kind of show us. And, you know, especially when those first-year guys get on campus, how they start trying to, you know, which way do they lead? Do they lead them to the path of success, or do they lead them to the path of failure? Because there's both. And the ones that lead to the path of failure, you don't take the followers out. You got to eliminate the path of failure leaders out. And then hopefully the guys that follow end up choosing the positive peer pressure ones rather than the other ones.
Coach, I know you've mentioned over time, even throughout the years, that you've always been a guy who likes to recruit from a positive tone. And I know you mentioned briefly a conversation you had with one guy you were talking to, but I'm curious, how has the recruiting process changed with all the success? Does it help the conversations? Does it get you into more doors, or do you not really see a change at all?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you win and you make a run in the NCAA tournament, it it opens more ears and eyes to what you're about and what your team's about. You know, I say this all the time. What 1997, what happened, you know, that thing was unbelievable. But no one remembers the greatness of that team because of an unfortunate game in early March. And is it right? Is it fair? No. But March kind of determines who we remember people being. Well, we made a run, so we've got the attention of people that helps us tell our story a little better. That you'd rather have that than people not pay attention. Yes, when you call people, it's gotten different every year, and you know, with a moment like the last month does, it kind of validates the real good players, just that we do have 14,000 people every time we take the court. That, you know what, wow, how they play is fun. You know, it's good players are competitors. See, some people think good players have good stats. It's not the way it works. Good players are competitors. They want to win. Those are guys I like coaching. And you can have all the stats in the world. If you're about your stats and not winning, you and me are never going to get along. Good competitors that are good players, they saw us play, and they're like, I like that. That team plays hard. You have parents sitting at home saying, that team loves each other. That's not phony stuff. That's real stuff. All that's positive in recruiting. And I think it was a great opportunity. You know, we talk about controversy. You know, we had the lady ask me about the two guys on top of the garage with the flag, try to create a negative story out of a non-story, and that was handled. And I answered truthfully because it's what this community and this state has shown me, who the people are. And because I answered truthfully based on my personal experience, did you ever read a story from a negative slant of where that lady was trying to take it to? No. And, you know, but it's you know, it's all positive right now. And now we've got to do our jobs. We can't sit back. You know, I could have stayed at Grand Cayman for 3 weeks. I really like to. I actually almost took that bartending job I talk about all the time. I sat there with the guy, and even though I don't drink, I spoke to him a lot, getting tips as to what my next chapter is all about. But he loved his job, too, I got to tell you. Now, I don't know if he'd leave it. But unfortunately, we don't get to do that. You know, we had to hit the road and recruit and try to build on the momentum that our kids gave us the platform to show our program to people about.
Couple more guys. Mike.
Coach, kind of going off from that, I know you said you took some time to reflect, and I'm sure you told the players, you know, right after that to relax a little bit. But when does the page kind of get flipped? When is last season, you know, when do you guys start moving on? Because this is different for the program. None of these guys have ever gone through something like this in the offseason where the expectations are now higher than they've ever been.
I told our players, and I've told friends and colleagues that I'm in the weirdest place personally that I've ever been in my professional career. Because if you told me I can never coach again, when they put me under the ground, professionally I'd have a big, big smile because of how lucky I've been. But after coaching on Saturday, I've got a fire that's burning inside of me like it's never burnt before to coach on Monday. And I don't know if Monday's ever going to be reality, but that moment has pushed me to a place I've never been to personally from a competitor standpoint. And I told our players, I said, you guys thought I'm crazy? Now you don't know what's coming. Because I've tasted something I've never tasted before, and I want more. I don't want less. And I'm excited. I'm as excited as I've ever been to take on that challenge. And I don't know. It might never happen. I'm all right. I'm willing to go find out if we can push that envelope to get to Monday one day. And so I'm you know, I'm at that place where I've always been at from a competitive standpoint, but they gave me something new, you know. And what I mean I'm talking about the gods of basketball. They gave me something new, something that I'd never tasted before, and I really, really enjoyed it. And Because I got to tell you that you walk up them steps to get on that elevated court, and now you're standing shoulder to shoulder, and you're hearing the national anthem, and you're kind of looking around, and you're saying, there's 77,000 people here to see my team play, and you're like, wow. And this is for me. This is brand new. And then you're standing there, and you realize, like Frank, all 77,000 are looking on the court right now, and they're looking at you standing like a tourist in New York City looking at the tall buildings. Get your eyes back down. So I said, okay, just look straight ahead. That's what they taught me in speech class back in 1983. Find a spot and just stare at it. And when I found that spot and just stared at it, Jim Boeheim, Jim Calhoun, Tubby Smith, Eddie Fogler are all the faces I'm looking at. So now I'm saying, holy cow. This is like the royalty of coaches, and they're all here to see my team play. So I even got more nervous. So it's powerful stuff. Powerful for me. It was powerful. And so I don't know if I've answered your question, but that I got a new taste of something I never tasted before. And I've got as satisfied as I am right now with our team and our program, our players, where we're at, I've got a fire that's never burnt inside of me before, and I can't wait to go at it again.
That's all right. I like that answer better.
Yeah.
We got three more guys, Phil, Dave, and Mike. So.
Oh, boy, here it comes. Negativity.
Just look at me and envision Max. Okay. Where are you in hiring your assistant coach?
I'm in deep conversations. I'm never in a rush. I think staff is the most important component to success. So I'm not into sexy hires. I'm not into, if I was an AD, you guys would hate me because I'm not into sexy winning press conference hires. I'm into finding the right person for the job that I think our staff needs, for the personality of our players. I'm not trying to win a press conference. I'm not trying to I'm not in a challenge as to what school hired the best assistant coach. I'm in the challenge of hiring the best person for our program and finding who that is. And this is how I handle this, Phil. I don't speak to a lot of people about everyone that's interested in the job or every person who has an opinion of who would be right for this job. I sit back and I kind of think of all the ones, because this part of my job is to keep tabs on people out there, whether they're people I'm affiliated with professionally, personally, or people that I really don't know, but I got respect for how they do things. It's my job to be prepared. And I sat back and I think long and hard. When you're writing, I'm thinking. And I'm not being stupid about it. When you're writing at night, I'm thinking, because that's the time that this thing gets quiet. And my kids are sleeping, and now I can think. And once I get my mind to a place where I'm at peace with those names, then I start asking the questions of people so I get better ideas of what would be good. If I start talking to people while I'm not at peace with my mind, then their words will impact what I'm thinking. And I can't have that because that's their words. They don't know what we need. So I'm at peace with that right now. I'm past the stage of having conversations with third parties. And I'm at the stage where now I'm having conversations with the people that I think would be of interest to me. And I'm at the beginning of that. I'm not in a rush. I think that whole deal about, you got to hire somebody for the recruiting weekends. For what? To put a T-shirt on some guy to sit in the stands? Where's that beneficial if he's not going to help the guys that are already in our locker room? So I'm at peace with where I'm at right now. I can't tell you that it's going to be in 2 days. I can't tell you it's going to be in 2 weeks. But I'm at a place where I'm at peace with the guys I'm speaking with.
Last question, Dave.
Frank, you're at liberty to say any games that have been finalized for the schedule for next year? No, but obviously you guys know
the normalcy of basketball schedules. There's some that are one-year deals. There's some that are home and homes, and I think you can all figure those out. But I can tell you this, that's where we're talking about recruiting and going to the Final Four. All of a sudden, national TV thinks we're a lot better than we were a month ago because we're getting a lot of phone calls for a lot of national TV games to be played in unbelievable platforms. And so maybe they like my sport coats. I don't know. That's why you want to win. Winning is hard. And sustaining winning is even harder, but when you have success, it opens up more doors. It opens up doors in recruiting. It opens up doors in scheduling. I don't anticipate us going into – if we can't release our schedule before August, it has nothing to do with the games that you want to write about. It's more about the games that everyone complains about because they're the games that, well, why are they scheduling them? Well, you got to schedule some home games against teams that you don't want to go play away. You can't play away from home against everybody. So I'm talking about the guarantee games. Those are harder because you got to come up to a dollar figure agreement. The dates have to work. RPI numbers have to work. Those are a lot more complicated than the national TV games. The hard part to the national TV games is elevating your program to where it's relevant for both schools, not just one. And I don't know if we're there yet, but we obviously got people's attention because there's unbelievable interest in putting us on TV right now. All right, guys.